Well, that has been the official exchange rate. But the question is that the Nigerians, how many Nigerians actually assess exchange rate at 305? And that also raised the question, why are we still having this parallel exchange rate, even at this point in time? So, for me, what I will say in terms of budget relevance now is that this budget has been titled Budget of Continuity, and I will say this budget does not reflect the preferred future for Nigerians. Because when you look at the total budget itself, 8.83 trillion, how much does that amount to in a nation of 190 million people? When you check that, it's less than 50,000 naira per annum. That is, then per day is less than 150 naira. Clearly, it shows that from where we are today, we are not actually looking at the future, that we need to plan and be at par with nations that are great and prosperous. So I see this budget more or less like an academic exercise whereby it is mandatory for us to have a budget each year. This budget does not reflect any vision that in the next 5, 10 years, this is where we want to be. And in talking about budget relevance, let me take two indices. In Nigeria today, we have about 90 million people under the poverty line. The question is, can this budget lift people out of the poverty line? You have over 20.9 million unemployed individuals in Nigeria. The question is, can this budget provide jobs for the people that are unemployed? So by the time you look at...
Mr. Chris, let me put you on hold for a minute or two and get to the response from Mr. Kabweze. He says that relevance and realism is absent in this budget, and as a result, he sees it as a if you will, a practical paper.
Well, I mean, with due respect to Dr. David, I think, first of all, he's, what he's saying is contradictory. On the one hand, he thinks the revenue projections are overly ambitious. Okay, and on the other hand, he says we are not spending enough. Secondly, I think the comments also reflect maybe not a proper understanding that what we're talking about is the federal government of Nigeria's budget. We operate a federation. All of the 36 state governments, then the Federal Capital Territory, and all of the 774 local governments are also required by law to produce annual budgets, and they have responsibilities. It is a collective expenditure of all of these that will move all of those indices that he refers to. It is not the budget of the federal government alone that will move those indices. And so you talk about whether we've produced 2.3 million barrels. First of all, I may add to his indices what is called aspiration. A budget, he says the budget doesn't reflect vision. And then you see talking about realistic as staying in the past, staying with history. Take 2.3 million barrels per day. As up to the third quarter of 2018, and the country averaged 1.95 million barrels per day. And that's because in the second quarter, there was a dip due to disruptions in product pipelines. As of now, we are at 2.1 million barrels per day. By the beginning of January, the Egina oil field, is coming on stream. Egina will deliver 200,000 barrels per day, in the course of 2019. So, do people who are commenting on this know about this? Do they know that in the not too distant past, Nigeria
Mr. Kabwe, if you allow me to come in here, because let's just get this clarified, because in 2018, it was the same benchmark of 2.3 million barrels per day, and that fell short, and I think, according to your words now, it's 1.9 we've been able to reach. So is he wrong? Is Mr. Chris Davids wrong in pointing out that particular element of the proposal, that you are not being realistic if you say 2.3 when you've not even met 2.3 in 2018?
No, that's what I'm saying. The budget is for a future period. And just because you failed in a past period doesn't affect. So you look at that period in context. I said this year, by up to September, which President also mentioned in his, we've averaged 1.95. That's average. By that end of September, we're not at 1.95. We're at 2.1. I say we're, at over, according to NPC, 2.15. And I said to you that in the course of 2019, just from one oil field, one new oil field that hasn't gone into production yet, you're expecting to add 200,000 barrels. And there are a few other oil fields coming on stream. So these have been, if you look at the economic recovery and growth plan, what it has for 2019 was 2.4 million barrels per day. We've actually then moderated that in preparing this budget, just to, to infuse some, dose of realism and provide for any contingencies in the event that we're not able to. And the discussion that we should really be having as Nigerians.
That was it. Just a minute.
If the country has the capacity.
Just hang on a minute. We'll come back to you so we can let you speak about the conversation you think we should be having. Then bounce it off Chris David as well as Dr. Nguyemi. That will be in a moment. Stay with us.